The massive chamber stretched out like a metal cathedral. Light came from panels high above, casting long shadows across the polished floor. General Park Dong-Soo walked forward with slow, measured steps. His black military boots echoed in the silent space. Behind him, 3 officers followed in perfect formation. The Galactic Defense Council sat on a raised platform. 3 alien judges looked down at the humans like they were examining insects under glass. The center judge was Valterian. Her skin looked like living crystal, pale blue and sharp. When she moved, small lights danced beneath her surface. Her eyes were cold white, without pupils or warmth. To her left sat Judge Morkesh of the Korthax Empire. His reptilian head swayed slightly as he studied the humans. Thick scales covered his neck and arms. His tongue flicked out occasionally, tasting the air. His yellow eyes never blinked. The third judge represented the Zephyrian collective. She appeared almost ghostly, her form shifting between solid and transparent. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, echoing in ways that made humans uncomfortable. General Park stopped at the designated mark on the floor. The red circle glowed softly under his feet. His 3 officers took positions, behind him, each standing at precise attention. Their uniforms were clean but simple. No decorations, no ribbons, no medals of any kind. Judge Vethkora, the Valterian, lifted a glowing tablet. Her crystal fingers moved across its surface with sharp clicking sounds. Data flowed across holographic displays that surrounded the judges. Personnel files, service records, mission reports. Everything the humans had done for the past 12 years was there for review. Colonel Kim Tae-ho, Judge Vethkora began. Her voice had the sound of breaking ice. 12 years of service, 17 different war zones, combat experience across 4 star systems. She paused and looked directly at him. Yet I see no decorations on your uniform. Kim Tae-ho stood perfectly still. His face showed nothing. His dark eyes focused straight ahead, not meeting the judge's stare. He was 35 years old but looked older. Lines around his eyes spoke of long nights and difficult choices. His black hair was cut military short. A small scar ran along his left jaw, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. The Valterian judge continued reading. Major Lee Jinwoo, communications specialist, served in the Outer Rim conflicts, participated in the defense of 3 human colonies. Again, she looked up with those cold white eyes. No medals, no commendations, no recognition of valor. Major Lee stood behind and to the left of his colonel. He was younger, maybe 28. His face was round and friendly looking, the kind of face that made people want to trust him. That had served him well over the years. His hands hung at his sides, relaxed but ready. Like his superior officers, his uniform was plain. Captain Yoon Hee-jin, the judge read the final name. Logistics Coordinator, Supply Line Management, stationed on 12 different worlds. The crystal being's head tilted slightly. For a logistics officer, you seem to have spent considerable time in active combat zones. Captain Yoon was the only woman among the 3. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with delicate features that made her appear almost fragile. Her black hair was pulled back in a regulation bun. Her brown eyes were calm, patient. She looked like someone who spent her days managing supply lists and transport schedules. She looked harmless. Judge Morkesh leaned forward. His forked tongue tasted the air again. These are your best officers, General Park. His voice was a low hiss. They have impressive service records, but where are the signs of their achievements? In Korthax military tradition, a warrior's chest tells the story of their valor. I see empty uniforms. The reptilian being gestured with one clawed hand toward a section of the gallery where other alien military officers sat. General Zekthar of the Hegemony Navy. Look at his decorations. 7 medals for ship-to-ship combat, 3 for tactical excellence, 2 for saving civilian populations. The Korthax judge's yellow eyes narrowed. What do your officers have to show for 12 years of warfare? In the gallery, alien officers turned to look at each other. Some whispered behind clawed hands or tentacles. A few laughed quietly, the sound carrying across the chamber like rustling leaves. They saw what they expected to see. Humans trying to play at being warriors, failing to understand how military honor worked. Commander Val Kesh of the Syndicate Worlds stood up in the gallery. His forearms gestured dismissively. Perhaps humans simply do not understand the concept of military achievement, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Their primitive culture may not recognize the importance of recording heroic deeds. More laughter rippled through the alien officers. The sound was not kind. Judge Zephyra, the ghostly Zephyrian, spoke for the first time. Her voice came from multiple directions, making the humans feel slightly dizzy. General Park, this council must determine whether humanity deserves continued membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance. Military prowess is a requirement. How can we judge your species' contribution to galactic security when your most experienced officers appear to have accomplished nothing worthy of recognition? Park had remained silent through all of this. He was 52 years old, a career soldier who had spent more years in space than on Earth. His hair was gray at the temples, his face lined with experience. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who had faced death many times and walked away. His uniform, like those of his officers, bore no decorations. The general's dark eyes moved slowly across the three judges, then swept the gallery of alien military commanders. His expression never changed. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, weight evenly distributed, ready for anything. The question before this council is simple, Judge Vethkora continued. If your officers are truly as experienced as their files suggest, where are their medals? Where are the symbols of their heroism? Where is the proof of their value to this alliance? The chamber fell silent. Even the whispers from the gallery stopped. Everyone waited for the human general to respond. The judges expected excuses, explanations, about different cultural traditions or perhaps admissions of failure. General Park's only response was a slight smile. It was not a friendly expression. It was the smile of someone who knew something the others did not. Something important. The silence stretched longer. The alien judges began to look uncomfortable. This was not how accused parties usually behaved. They were supposed to defend themselves, to argue their case, to show proper respect for the tribunal's authority. Instead, the human general just stood there, smiling that cold, knowing smile. Judge Vethkora's crystal features darkened slightly. General Park, this council requires an answer. Where are your medals? The question hung in the air like a weapon waiting to strike, but General Park remained silent, his smile never wavering. Behind him, his three officers stood like statues. Colonel Kim, Major Lee, and Captain Yoon showed no emotion, no fear, no concern about the judgment that would determine humanity's fate in the galactic community. They all knew something the aliens did not. And soon, everyone in that chamber would understand why some victories could never be celebrated, and why the most important heroes could never be recognized. 3 hours earlier, deep beneath the Galactic Defense Council building, Colonel Kim Tae-ho sat alone in a small gray room. The walls had no windows. The only light came from a single panel above his head. On the metal table in front of him lay 3 files marked with red stamps. The words "classified" and "eyes only" covered each folder. The door opened with a soft hiss. Major Lee Jinwoo walked in, followed by Captain Yoon Hee-jin. They took seats across from their colonel. The room was so small their chairs almost touched. This was not an accident. Rooms like this were built small on purpose. No recording devices. Could be hidden easily. Sound could not carry far. Kim opened the first file. Inside were photographs and documents that officially did not exist. Kepler Station, he said quietly. 3 years ago. Hye-jin looked down at the photos. She remembered that night clearly. The Galactic Trade Summit had brought together ambassadors from 40 different worlds. The human ambassador Park Min-ho was there to sign new treaties. What nobody knew was that 6 different alien groups wanted him dead. The plan had been simple but deadly. During the welcome dinner, servers would bring poisoned wine to the human delegation. The poison was designed to look like a heart attack. Ambassador Park would die, And with him would die 3 important trade agreements that other species did not want humans to have. Hai-Jin had learned about the plot only 6 hours before the dinner. There was no time to warn security without revealing her cover. She had been working as a kitchen server for 2 months, slowly building trust with the other staff. If she broke her cover now, she would lose years of careful work. So she had made a different choice. "You switched the bottles," Kim said, looking at his captain. 26 bottles of poisoned wine. You replaced every single one during the dinner service. "The real wine was stored in cold storage bay 7, Heejin replied in a calm voice. "I had to make 17 trips. Nobody noticed because servers are supposed to be invisible." Lee flipped through security photos from that night. In the pictures, Heejin looked like any other server. Small, quiet, forgettable. She moved between tables carrying trays and bottles. In one photo, she was pouring wine for Ambassador Park himself. The man was smiling, completely unaware that he was supposed to die in the next 10 minutes. "The official report credited enhanced security screening," Kim continued. "It said the poisoned bottles were discovered during routine food safety checks." "Ambassador Park never knew," Heejin said. "He still does not know. As far as he understands, the dinner went perfectly." Kim closed that file and opened the second one. This one was thicker, full of communication records and intercepted messages. New Soul Colony. The evacuation. Lee sat up straighter. This was his operation. For 8 months he had lived among the enemy. Not as a prisoner or a spy in the traditional sense, but as someone who had supposedly turned traitor. Someone who was willing to sell human secrets for the right price. The hegemony needed someone inside human communications, Lee explained. They put out word that they would pay well for access to military channels. So I became that person. It had been dangerous work. Lee had to act like someone who hated his own species. He attended meetings where alien commanders discussed the best ways to kill humans. He nodded and smiled when they talked about burning human colonies. He pretended to agree when they said humans were a disease that needed to be removed from the galaxy. "They gave you access to their battle plans," Kim said, reading from the file. "More than that," Lee replied. "They asked me to help plan the attack on New Sol. They wanted inside information about the colony's defenses. New Sol was home to 2.7 million people. It was one of humanity's largest settlements outside of Earth itself. The colony had factories, farms, schools, and hospitals. Families had lived there for generations. The hegemony's plan was to hit the colony fast and hard. Their fleet would jump in from hyperspace and begin orbital bombing immediately. No warnings. No chance to surrender. They intended to kill every human on the planet as an example to other colonies. You gave them false information," Kim continued reading. "I told them the colony's shields were stronger than they really were," Lee said. "I said they would need to position their fleet in specific locations to break through. I also told them the defense platforms were in different places than where they actually were. But that was not the real plan." Lee shook his head. "The real plan was evacuation. While they were preparing to attack fake defensive positions, we were moving civilians off the planet. Every transport ship we could find. Cargo haulers, passenger, ships, even some military vessels." The operation had taken 3 weeks. Working only at night, human ships had quietly landed at cities across New Sol. Families were told they were being relocated for routine safety drills. Children thought they were going on exciting trips to visit other colonies. 2.5 million people, Kim read from the report, evacuated in 21 days. The hegemony fleet arrived to find empty cities, Lee continued. They bombed an entire planet and killed fewer than 50,000 people. Most of those were volunteers who stayed behind to make the colony look occupied. Kim turned to another page. The official report said the evacuation was planned due to dangerous solar activity. That was the story we told, Lee confirmed. Solar flares made the planet temporarily unsafe for human habitation. A reasonable scientific explanation. Nobody questioned it. The third file was the thickest. Kim opened it carefully. Inside were medical records, chemical analysis reports, and death certificates from 17 different worlds. Operation Silent Cure, Kim said. This was Hyojin's most difficult assignment. The file contained information about a biological weapon, designed specifically to kill humans. The virus had been created in a secret laboratory on a syndicate world. It was designed to spread through human populations quickly, while leaving other species completely unaffected. The Rigel Prime outbreak, Hyojin said. That was the test. Rigel Prime was a small human mining colony. 3,000 people lived there working in the asteroid mines. When the virus was released, it spread through the population in less than a week. The symptoms looked like a natural plague. High fever, organ failure, death within 72 hours. Galactic health officials could not find a cure, Kim read. They said it was a new type of virus probably evolved naturally in the asteroid belt. But you found the real laboratory, he said, looking at Hyojin. The captain nodded. Station, Dark 7 hidden in the Vega system. They were not just making the virus there, they were making other biological weapons, diseases that could target specific human genetic markers. Hyojin had infiltrated the station by posing as a waste disposal worker. For 6 weeks, she had cleaned floors and emptied trash containers while secretly mapping the facility. She learned the security codes, the staff schedules, and the locations of all the laboratories. The station suffered a catastrophic accident, Kim read from the official report. Reactor malfunction caused by equipment failure, all hands lost. I overloaded their main power core, Hyojin said simply. The explosion destroyed everything. The virus samples, the research data, the scientists who made them, all of it. The Rigel Prime outbreak ended the same day. The virus needed constant updates from the laboratory to remain active. When the lab was destroyed, the virus became harmless within hours. Kim closed all 3 files. In the small gray room, the 3 officers sat quietly for a moment. These were just 3 operations among many. Their real service records contained dozens of similar missions, operations that saved millions of lives but could never be acknowledged. Tomorrow the Council will ask us to justify our existence, Kim said. They will want to know why humanity deserves a place in the galactic community. They will look at our uniforms and see no medals, Lee added. They will think we have accomplished nothing important, Hyojin finished. Kim stood up and gathered the files. They do not understand that our greatest victories look like accidents. Our most important work appears to be coincidence. We save lives by being forgotten. The 3 officers left the small room and walked down a long hallway toward an elevator. Soon they would stand before the Galactic Defense Council and be judged. The aliens would see plain uniforms and assume failure. They would be wrong. But that was exactly how it was supposed to be. 2 years ago, the asteroid belt around Titan 7 was a dangerous place. Pirates, smugglers, and weapons dealers met there to conduct business away from galactic law. The largest criminal organization was the Corvallis Syndicate. They controlled trade routes, sold illegal weapons, and dealt in slaves from dozens of worlds. Captain Yoon Hyojin floated in a stolen cargo ship, approaching the Syndicate's main base. Her ship's registration claimed she was Yoon Soo-mi, a weapons dealer from the outer colonies. Her cargo hold contained 20 cases of what appeared to be military-grade plasma rifles. In reality, every weapon had been carefully modified by human engineers. The Syndicate base was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Docking bays carved into the rock could hold 50 ships. Defense turrets covered every approach. Inside, the base housed 3,000 criminals from dozens of different species. Cargo ship Midnight Runner, you are cleared for Docking Bay 7, came a voice over the radio. The speaker was Thekmor, a Korthax who served as the Syndicate's security chief. Hyojin guided her ship into the docking bay. The artificial gravity pulled her craft down onto the metal landing pad. Through her view screen, she could see Syndicate guards waiting to inspect her cargo. They carried heavy weapons and wore armor that could stop most small arms fire. "Welcome to Titan 7, said a blue-skinned Andorian as Hyojin opened her ship's cargo bay. "I am Velkesh, purchasing agent for the Syndicate. I understand you have something special for us." "Human weapons," Hyojin replied, playing her role as a criminal. "Fresh from a military supply raid. These plasma rifles can cut through standard body armor like paper. Velkesh examined one of the weapons. His three eyes studied every detail. Impressive craftsmanship. How many do you have? 200 rifles, 50 sidearms, and 10 heavy cannons, enough to outfit a small army. The Syndicate has been looking for human weapons technology. Your species makes excellent tools of war. Over the following weeks, Hyejin established herself as a reliable supplier. She made friends among the criminals, learned their routines, and slowly gained access to restricted areas of the base. The Syndicate leaders began to trust her. They invited her to their planning meetings and shared information about future operations. During this time, Major Lee Jin-woo was working his own mission on a communication station 3 systems away. He had convinced the local station commander that he was corrupt, willing to sell military communication codes for the right price. The human military changes their encryption every 30 days, Lee told the station commander, a reptilian being named Sektar, but I can give you the new codes 24 hours before they go active. And what do you want in return? Sektar asked. Credits. Enough to buy my own ship and disappear to the rim worlds. I am tired of serving a species that does not appreciate my talents. Sektar believed the story because he wanted to believe it. Many species thought humans were weak and easily corrupted. Lee used this prejudice to his advantage. For 6 months, both operations continued. Hyejin sold weapons while Lee sold secrets. Both gathered intelligence about Syndicate operations across the galaxy. They learned about slave trading routes, weapons manufacturing facilities, and planned attacks on human colonies. The breakthrough came when Syndicate leader Morvac announced a special demonstration. He had acquired enough human weapons to equip his entire fleet. He planned to showcase these weapons to potential buyers from hostile alien governments. We will demonstrate the power of human technology, Morvac declared at a meeting Hyejin attended. When other species see what these weapons can do, they will pay any price to obtain them. The demonstration was scheduled to take place in an empty star system. 12 Syndicate ships would show off human plasma rifles, cannons, and explosives to buyers from 6 different hostile species. If the sale succeeded, thousands of human weapons would spread across the galaxy. Hyejin sent a coded message to Lee using criminal communication channels. The message appeared to be about a weapons shipment, but hidden in the text was critical information about the demonstration. 3 days before the demonstration, both agents made their final preparations. Hyejin had been modifying weapons for months. Each plasma rifle contained a hidden component that would cause catastrophic failure under specific conditions. The rifles would work normally during small-scale testing, but when fired simultaneously in large numbers, they would overload and explode. Lee had been feeding false navigation data to the Syndicate's computer systems. The coordinates for the demonstration site were slightly wrong. Instead of meeting an empty space, the Syndicate fleet would jump into the gravity well of an unstable brown dwarf star. The day of the demonstration arrived. 12 Syndicate ships loaded with criminals and weapons jumped to hyperspace. 6 buyer ships from hostile species followed. Hyejin was aboard the Syndicate flagship, while Lee monitored communications from his station. When the ships dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves much closer to the brown dwarf than planned. The star's gravity began pulling the ships toward its surface. Panic spread through the fleet as pilots tried to correct their position. Begin the weapons demonstration, Morvac ordered, unaware of the danger. 300 Syndicate fighters opened fire with human plasma rifles. For 30 seconds, the weapons performed perfectly. Bright energy beams lit up space as the criminals showed off their firepower. Then the hidden components activated. The plasma rifles began to overload simultaneously. Energy feedback traveled through the weapon systems into the ship's power cores. One by one, the Syndicate vessels began to explode. The buyer ships tried to escape, but the brown dwarf's gravity was too strong. Within minutes, the entire fleet was destroyed. 18 ships, 4,000 criminals, and hundreds of human weapons disappeared in a brilliant flash of light. Tragic accident. Read the official report filed by galactic authorities. Criminal, fleet destroyed by gravitational anomaly and equipment failure. No survivors. Hyojin's escape pod was found 3 days later by a human rescue ship. She was listed as the only survivor of a pirate attack on her cargo vessel. Lee continued his work at the communications station, having successfully explained the Syndicate's destruction as a navigation error caused by faulty equipment. Both agents had new identities within a month. Their old names were listed among the dead from various unrelated incidents. They became different people with different backgrounds, ready for their next assignments. The Syndicate's weapons technology was completely destroyed. Their leadership was eliminated. Their operations across 12 star systems collapsed. The slave trade they controlled was broken apart by rival criminal groups fighting over the remains. No medals were awarded because officially, no heroes had been involved. The destruction of the Corvallis Syndicate was just another example of criminals being destroyed by their own greed and incompetence. But 2.5 million slaves were freed when the Syndicate collapsed. 17 human colonies were saved from planned attacks. And human weapons technology remained secure from hostile alien governments. The price of this victory was silence. Neither Hyojin nor Lee could ever tell anyone what they had accomplished. Their families believed they had died in training accidents. Their friends mourned at empty graves. They had saved millions of lives and could never be thanked for it. This was the burden all Shadow Warriors carried. They fought wars that officially never happened, defeated enemies that officially never existed, and saved people who officially never needed saving. Their medals were the nightmares they carried and the secrets they would never share. In the secure briefing room beneath the Galactic Defense Council building, Colonel Kim Tae-ho activated a holographic display. The blue light filled the small space, showing a three-dimensional map of known space. Red dots marked hostile territories. Yellow zones showed areas of conflict. Green represented allied worlds. "This is what the other species see," Kim said to his officers. "The official war. Fleets fighting fleets. Armies conquering planets. Clear battles with clear winners and losers." Major Lee Jin-woo and Captain Yoon Hee-jin studied the display. They had seen this map many times before, but tonight it felt different. Tomorrow they would stand before judges who believed this map told the whole story of galactic conflict. Kim touched a control panel. The display changed. Now thousands of small purple dots appeared throughout the galaxy. They were scattered across, friendly and hostile territory alike, showing no clear pattern. "This is the real war," Kim continued. "Each purple dot represents a human operation that prevented a larger conflict. Most of the judges upstairs have never seen this map. Their species fight wars after they start. We fight to stop wars before they begin." The colonel pointed to a cluster of dots near the galactic core. The hegemony spent 3 years planning to poison the water supplies of 12 human colonies. They believed they could kill 10 million people and make it look like industrial accidents. Lee nodded. He remembered that operation. Agent Kang So-ra infiltrated their biological weapons division. She worked as a janitor for 8 months. She contaminated their entire lab with a virus that destroyed only their specific poison, Kim added. The hegemony researchers thought they had a quality control problem. They never realized they had been sabotaged. Kim moved his finger to another section of the map. Here, purple dots formed a line along a major trade route. The Syndicate worlds wanted to cut off human supply lines during the border wars. They planned to use pirates to attack our cargo ships. Captain Park Jae-hyun posed as a pirate captain, Hyojin said. He spent 2 years building a reputation as the most successful raider in the sector. Then he led 60 pirate ships into an ambush at the Centauri Junction, Kim finished. The survivors thought they had been betrayed by rival pirates. They never suspected human intelligence. The display showed more purple dots scattered across hostile territory. Each one represented months or years of careful work. Human agents living among enemies, building false identities, gaining trust, and then striking at exactly the right moment. The Korthax Empire developed new shield technology that could stop human weapons, Kim continued his briefing. Their fleet would have been nearly invincible. Dr. Yu Min-jung joined their research team as a quantum physicist, Lee said. She introduced a small error into their calculations. The shields worked perfectly in testing but failed during actual combat. The official story was that Korthak scientists had made a mathematical mistake, Kim added. Their entire shield program was abandoned. The colonel touched another control. The map zoomed in on the outer rim territories. Here, the purple dots were spread thin across vast distances. The most dangerous operations happened in deep space. No backup, no support, no way home if things went wrong. He pointed to an isolated dot near the edge of known space. Station Omega-7. The collective was building a weapon that could destroy entire star systems by triggering their suns to go supernova. Both officers remembered hearing about this mission. It was considered suicide work. The agent would have to spend years alone among hostile aliens with no contact from home. Lieutenant Commander Choi Dong-wook volunteered for deep cover assignment, Kim said quietly. He underwent surgical modification to look like a collective engineer. New face, new fingerprints, implanted memories. The official records list him as killed in a transport accident, Yejin said. Because as far as the world is concerned, he did die. Choi Dong-wook no longer exists. The person who destroyed the supernova weapon and saved billions of lives is someone else entirely. He can never come home. He can never contact his family. He will never be the person he used to be. The room fell silent. All three officers knew agents who had made similar sacrifices, people who had given up their entire identities to protect humanity. They were living ghosts, fighting a shadow war with no recognition and no reward except the knowledge that their species survived. Kim changed the display again. Now it showed timeline data stretching back 15 years. This is what we have prevented, he said. The list was staggering. 47 planned attacks on human colonies, stopped before they began. 12 biological weapons programs sabotaged during development. 8 alliance attempts between hostile species, disrupted through misinformation and targeted elimination of key leaders. The Vega incident, Kim read from the list. Hostile aliens plan to ram an asteroid into New Tokyo colony. Population, 7 million. Agent Nam Tae-min joined the asteroid mining crew, Lee said. He caused equipment failures that made the asteroid break apart before it could be weaponized. The Rigel conspiracy, Kim continued. 6 species planned to form a military alliance against humanity. 3 of their key leaders died in unrelated accidents within 2 months, Hae Jin added. Mechanical failures, food poisoning, transport, crashes. The alliance fell apart due to mistrust and paranoia. The Titan virus, Kim read the next item. Designed to target human DNA specifically, Lee said, would have killed every human in the galaxy within 5 years. The research facility suffered a reactor breach, Hee-jin finished. Total loss of all personnel and data, officially ruled an accident caused by poor maintenance. The colonel turned off the display. The room returned to normal lighting, but the weight of what they had discussed remained heavy in the air. In 15 years of shadow operations, we have prevented the deaths of over 200 million humans, Kim said. We have stopped 4 attempts to completely eliminate our species from the galaxy. We have neutralized weapons that could have destroyed entire star systems. And nobody knows, Lee said quietly. Nobody can know, Kim corrected. The moment our enemies realize what we are doing, they will change their methods. They will become more careful, more secretive. Our advantage comes from appearing weak while being strong. Hee-jin looked at her hands. They seemed small and delicate, the hands of someone who worked with supply lists and transport schedules. Nobody looking at her would imagine these hands had killed 17 high-value targets across 4 star systems. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like, she said, to wear a uniform with medals, to have people know what we have done. We would be dead within a week, Kim replied bluntly. Our families would be dead. Every human agent in the field would be exposed and executed. The shadow war would end and the real war would begin. A war humanity would lose, Lee added. We are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Our only advantage is that our enemies do not realize how dangerous we really are. Kim stood up and gathered the data tablets. Tomorrow, the council will judge us based on what they can see. They will look at our plain uniforms and assume we are failures. They will vote on whether humanity deserves to remain in the galactic community, Lee said. They do not understand that we are the reason there is still a galactic community to belong to. Hyojin finished. The three officers left the briefing room and walked toward the elevator that would take them to the upper levels. Soon they would face judgment from beings who had never fought the kind of war humans had been fighting for 15 years. A war fought in shadows and silence. A war where victory looked like coincidence and heroes could never be acknowledged. Or that humanity was winning, one invisible battle at a time. Back in the tribunal chamber, tension filled the air like electricity before a storm. General Park Dong-soo had been standing silent for nearly 10 minutes. The alien judges were growing impatient. In the gallery, military commanders from dozens of species whispered among themselves. Judge Veth Cora, the crystal-skinned Valtarian, leaned forward in her chair. Her white eyes blazed with cold anger. General Park, this council demands an answer. Your continued silence shows disrespect for galactic law and military tradition. Judge Morkesh, the reptilian Korthax, hissed softly. Perhaps humans simply have no achievements worth discussing. Their silence speaks of shame. The ghostly Zephyrian judge, Zeph Ara, added her voice from multiple directions at once. The evidence suggests humanity lacks the military capability to contribute meaningfully to galactic defense. This council must consider removing your species from the Alliance. In the gallery, Commander Valkesh of the Syndicate world stood again. His 4 arms gestured dismissively. I propose we vote immediately. Why waste more time on a species that cannot even explain their own failures? Laughter rippled through the alien officers. They had seen enough. Humans with no medals, no decorations, no proof of military worth. The decision seemed obvious. General Park finally spoke. His voice was calm, quiet, and somehow more dangerous than any shout. You ask where our medals are, he said. You believe that the absence of decorations means the absence of service. But tell me, honored judges, what happened to Fleet Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Navy? The laughter in the gallery stopped instantly. Judge Veth Cora's crystal features darkened. Admiral Zektar died in a shuttle accident 3 years ago. What does this have to do with your lack of military honors? A shuttle accident, Park repeated slowly. How unfortunate. And what about Trade Minister Valketh of the Syndicate worlds, the one who controlled the slave routes in the Outer Rim? Judge Morkesh's forked tongue flicked nervously. Valketh died from food poisoning. A tragic incident, but irrelevant to these proceedings. Food poisoning, Park nodded. How careless of him. And Intelligence Director Moore Dunn of the Shadow Fleet? The one who was planning to poison water supplies on human colonies? The Zephyrian judge's voice carried a note of uncertainty. Director, Morden suffered a reactor breach in his laboratory. All personnel were lost. These deaths were investigated and ruled accidental. General Park smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Accidents. Yes, there have been many accidents involving those who threaten humanity. He turned to address the full assembly. Perhaps you remember the Great Plague that struck Rigel Prime? Your own medical experts declared it incurable. Strange how it simply stopped spreading. Nervous whispers began in the gallery. Several alien commanders were remembering other incidents, other convenient accidents. Or the terrorist attack on the Galactic Trade Hub, Park continued. 5,000 people should have died when those explosives detonated, but somehow mysteriously all the bombs failed to explode at the same time. Judge Veth Cora stood up, her crystal form crackling with energy. General Park, you are implying something very serious. Are you suggesting that human forces were involved in these incidents? I am suggesting nothing, Park replied. I am simply noting that many threats to galactic peace have ended in convenient ways. He gestured toward his 3 officers. Colonel Kim, Major Lee, Captain Yoon. 12 years of service across 17 war zones. No medals, no decorations, no official recognition. Because they were not fighting official wars. The chamber fell completely silent. Every being present felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Park walked closer to the judge's platform. Your species fight wars with armies and fleets. You march in formation, you hold territory, you plant flags and declare victory. When you win, you give medals. When you lose, you retreat and plan the next battle. His voice grew harder. Humans fight a different kind of war. We fight in the shadows, in the spaces between your official conflicts. We prevent wars before they start. We eliminate threats before they become crises. You are talking about assassination, Judge Vethkora said, her voice shaking. About illegal operations conducted without council oversight. I am talking about survival, Park shot back. While you debate ethics in comfortable chambers, my people ensure that there is still a galaxy left to govern. He activated a small device in his hand. Holographic displays filled the air above the chamber. The aliens gasped as they saw classified footage from human operations across the galaxy. The first image showed Major Lee Jinwoo in perfect Korthax military uniform, speaking flawless Korthax language as he fed false intelligence to enemy commanders. Major Lee prevented the surprise attack on 3 human colonies by convincing the Korthax fleet to attack empty space instead, Park narrated. Officially, the Korthax made a navigation error. The next image showed Captain Yoon Hye-jin in a laboratory, carefully sabotaging biological weapons. Captain Yoon destroyed a virus designed to kill every human in the galaxy. The laboratory suffered what appeared to be an accidental reactor breach. More images flashed across the displays. Human agents posing as criminals, scientists, traitors, and soldiers. Always appearing to be something they were not. Always striking at exactly the right moment. Fleet Admiral Zektar was planning to use ramming attacks against human cities, Park continued. His shuttle accident happened because Captain Yoon was his maintenance technician that week. Trade Minister Valketh was organizing the sale of 2 million human slaves, Park said as another image appeared. Major Lee was his food taster when he died from that unfortunate poisoning. Intelligence Director Moore Dunn was 3 days away from completing a weapon that could sterilize entire planets. Colonel Kim was working in his laboratory as a janitor when that reactor breach occurred. The alien judges stared at the evidence in horror and fascination. They were seeing a completely different kind of warfare. Not grand battles between fleets, but careful, precise operations that looked like accidents and coincidences. For 15 years, human shadow operations have prevented over 200 planned attacks on civilian populations, Park announced. We have stopped 12 biological weapons programs, neutralized 8 planet-killing devices, and eliminated 47 terrorist organizations before they could strike. Judge Morkesh found his voice. These are war crimes, assassinations, without trial, sabotage without declaration of war. These are necessary actions, Park replied coldly. Your legal system works when dealing with honorable enemies who follow rules. It does not work against those who plan genocide in secret. You have no right to act as judge and executioner, Judge Vethkora protested. General Park's expression grew deadly serious. We have the right of survival. When someone builds a weapon designed to kill every human child in the galaxy, we do not wait for a committee to debate the proper legal response. He gestured toward the gallery of alien officers. How many of you have lost sleep worrying about human military expansion? How many of your governments have discussed the human threat in private meetings? Several aliens looked uncomfortable. The truth was that many species did fear human military potential. You should fear us, Park said bluntly. Not because we want to conquer you, but because we are very good at preventing you from conquering us. The reason there has been relative peace in this galaxy for the past 15 years is not because of your councils and committees. It is because every would-be tyrant, every genocidal madman, every species supremacist has learned a simple lesson. Threaten humanity, and accidents happen to you. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Some aliens were angry, others frightened, still others impressed despite themselves. Judge Zephara's voice cut through the noise. You are admitting to conducting illegal warfare against member species of this alliance. I am admitting to protecting this alliance from those who would destroy it, Park corrected. Every target we eliminated was planning actions that would have led to galactic war. We do not get medals because our greatest victories look like coincidences. We do not receive recognition because the moment our enemies know we exist, they will adapt their methods. Our reward is not honor or glory. Our reward is the fact that tomorrow, billions of beings across the galaxy will wake up safe, never knowing how close they came to not waking up at all. The truth hung in the chamber like a weapon. Humanity had been fighting a shadow war to protect galactic civilization itself. And they had been winning. The silence in the chamber lasted for nearly a full minute. No one spoke. No one moved. The weight of General Park's revelations settled over the assembly like a heavy blanket. Finally, Judge Veth Cora found her voice. The crystal being's entire form had turned a pale blue, a sign of shock among her species. General Park, you are describing a systematic campaign of covert warfare spanning 15 years. The legal implications are staggering. The survival implications were more important, Park replied without emotion. Judge Morkesh leaned forward, his reptilian eyes fixed on the human general. You eliminated targets without trial, without evidence presented to this council, without any oversight whatsoever. We eliminated threats before they could act, Park corrected. Your legal system requires evidence of crimes already committed. We prevented crimes from being committed in the first place. In the gallery, the alien, military commanders were having urgent whispered conversations. Many were remembering incidents from their own operations, times when mysterious accidents had disrupted their plans. Commander Val Kesh of the Syndicate Worlds stood up, his forearms shaking with anger. You murdered Trade Minister Val Keth. He was a legitimate government official. He was selling human children as slaves. Captain Yoon Hee-jin spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm but deadly. 2 million humans, including 50,000 children under the age of 10. The sale was scheduled to happen in 6 days. You have no proof of this, Valkesh shouted. Major Lee Jinwoo stepped forward and activated a small recording device. Valketh's voice filled the chamber, speaking in his native language about the profit margins on human slaves and the best methods for keeping them obedient during transport. The recording played for 30 seconds before Lee turned it off. The chamber was silent again. We have proof of everything, General Park said quietly. We keep detailed records of every operation, every target, every threat we neutralize. The evidence is classified, but it exists. He activated his display device again. This time the holographic images showed massive amounts of data: personnel files, communication intercepts, financial records, biological samples, weapons specifications. The Hegemony Biological Weapons Program, Park said as medical charts appeared in the air. Designed to target specific human genetic markers. Field testing showed 97% mortality rate among human subjects. Judge Zeph Ara's ghostly form flickered with distress. These documents appear authentic, but they could be fabricated. They could be, Park agreed. But you know they are not. He was right. The data was too detailed, too complete, too consistent to be fake. The aliens in the chamber were looking at 15 years of human intelligence gathering. It was the most comprehensive view of galactic criminal activity ever assembled. The Korthax Shield Technology Project, Park continued as new images appeared, designed specifically to make their fleet invulnerable to human weapons. The plan was to use this advantage to force humanity into slavery. Technical specifications filled the air. Detailed blueprints of shield generators, test results, battle simulations. All of it showing weapons and defenses designed to defeat human forces. Project Dark Sun, Park said, as another set of files appeared. Collective plan to trigger supernovas in star systems containing human colonies. Estimated casualties: 4 billion humans across 17 worlds. The scope of the threat was staggering. Entire star systems would have been destroyed. The human species would have been reduced to a few scattered colonies. We stopped all of this, Park said simply. Not with medals and parades, but with careful planning and precise action. Judge Veth Cora studied the data flowing through the holographic displays. Even if these threats were real, your methods were illegal under galactic law. Galactic law assumes that threats will be reported through proper channels, Colonel Kim Tae-ho said, speaking for the first time. What do you do when the proper channels are compromised? What do you mean? Judge Morkesh asked. Kim activated another display. This one showed communication records and financial transactions, council members who received bribes to ignore threats against humanity, intelligence officials who sold human colony locations to slavers, military commanders who provided weapons to terrorist organizations. The evidence was overwhelming. Dozens of high-ranking galactic officials had been working with criminal organizations. The proper channels were not just compromised, they were actively working against human interests. We could not report threats through official channels because the officials were part of the threats, Kim explained. This council itself was infiltrated, Major Lee added. Judge Colvex of the Trade Commission was selling shipping schedules for human cargo vessels to pirate fleets. Judge Colvex died in a transport accident last year, Judge Zeph Ara said slowly. Yes, he did, Lee confirmed. Very tragic. The implications were clear. Even the Galactic Defense Council had been compromised. Human shadow operations had been protecting the galaxy from enemies within the government itself. General Park stepped closer to the judge's platform. You asked where our medals are. I will tell you. Our medals are the children who are still alive because we stopped slave traders from taking them. Our medals are the colonies that still exist because we prevented their destruction. Our medals are the peace that you take for granted, because we eliminate those who would shatter it. He gestured toward his 3 officers. Colonel Kim has personally prevented 8 genocidal attacks against civilian populations. Major Lee has disrupted 12 major criminal organizations and 4 terrorist networks. Captain Yoon has eliminated 19 high-value targets who were planning mass murder. Their chests are empty because heroes who work in shadows cannot be recognized in the light. But their service records show the truth. In 15 years of shadow operations, not one major attack against civilian populations has succeeded. Not one biological weapon has been deployed against populated worlds. Not one genocidal plan has been completed. The galaxy has been safer because humanity fights the wars that others cannot see. Judge Veth Kora looked at her fellow judges. All 3 were struggling with the implications of what they had learned. General Park, even if we accept that your actions were necessary, they were still conducted without proper authorization. We had authorization, Park said simply. From whom? Judge Morkesh demanded. From the species we were protecting. The general activated one final display. This one showed voting records from the Galactic Council spanning 15 years. Every major decision about human membership in the Alliance had been unanimous. Every trade agreement had been approved without objection. Every expansion of human territory had been supported by all member species. For 15 years, this galaxy has voted continuously to support human interests, Park explained. Not because you like us, but because the alternative is chaos. Deep down, every species in this chamber knows the truth. There are forces in the galaxy that want to destroy civilized society. Pirates, slavers, terrorists, genocidal madmen. Your official military forces cannot stop them because they operate outside the law. But humans can stop them. We do stop them. And we do it in ways that allow you to maintain the fiction that galactic society is peaceful and law-abiding. We are your immune system. We eliminate the diseases that would kill galactic civilization, and we do it so quietly that you can pretend the diseases never existed. The truth was finally out. Humanity had been conducting a shadow war to protect the entire galaxy. Their lack of medals was not a sign of failure. It was proof of success so complete that it remained invisible. Judge Zeph Ara's voice came from multiple directions, softer than before. What happens now? How can this council function knowing what you have revealed? General Park smiled. For the first time since entering the chamber, it was a genuine expression of warmth. Nothing changes. Tomorrow, we will receive new intelligence about new threats. My people will develop new plans to neutralize those threats. The Shadow War will continue. The only difference is that now you know it exists. And knowing that humanity is protecting you, perhaps you can sleep a little better at night. The vote was unanimous. Humanity's membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance was not only confirmed but elevated to permanent status with special operational authority. As the human delegation left the chamber, Captain Yoon Hee-jin quietly asked, "Sir, will we really be able to continue operating now that they know about us?" General Park's smile turned cold again. "Captain, half the beings in that chamber will spend tonight wondering if they should report what they learned to their governments. By tomorrow, several of them will have decided that humanity knows too much about galactic secrets. Within a week, 3 or 4 species will begin planning preemptive strikes against human territory. They will believe that eliminating us is the only way to keep their own criminal activities secret, and when they do," he continued, "we will be ready for them. After all, threatening humanity is a very dangerous habit." The Shadow War continued, but now the galaxy knew it had guardians watching from the darkness. And in the shadows between the stars, humanity's invisible heroes prepared for whatever came next.